Welcome to our 2130 Partners Operating Principle video series. I'm Suzanne Mayo-Frint, Principal of 2130 Partners and co-author of our book, Accelerate, High Leverage Leadership for Today's World. This video segment is going to focus on using I statements. The full statement operating principle is own my participation and my perception. Use I statements. So these pieces of the operating principle point to self-generated accountability. I'm actually going to take on responsibility for my perceptions, my conclusions, my opinions, my own experiences, and I'm going to share them responsibly in that way. We're not talking about I statements that grab credit, that are egocentric, that self-aggrandize, I. We are talking about using it in the right time, in the right place, that signals ownership and helps prevent defense. And so when I use I statements, it focuses me on my words and experience versus a generalized statements or opinions or stories about society at large. So listen to yourself, become self-aware and self-intervene. It might also be useful to listen to others, although I don't recommend that you intervene in their use of statements until you've mastered yours. But listen to where you may be using you statements or we statements that are completely inappropriate and mask real accountability. So a place to use I statements, for example, is when I'm sharing my own experience. In my experience, or from my perspective, or my recommendation, or my thoughts about this are. A place to use we statements are, how will we together figure this out? That's useful when it actually is the job of the team to figure it out. It's not useful to use the word we when it's me that has to figure this out. I've got to figure this out. I need your help. What input can you give me? How can you help me with this decision I have to make? So there's a distinction or a clarity for people when we're clear about where responsibility lies. So to own my perception, or to own my participation, meaning the way I speak and interact with the world, is to use I statements. So practice it. Sometimes it's uncomfortable for people who've used a lot of you statements or we statements, but notice how you statements can even sound like pointing. You know, you need to do this, you should do this, you did that, when actually what we want to be able to do is separate the issues, be able to confront issues and deal with them separate from the person. When I'm using you statements, particularly in an accusatory way, it often separates me and disconnects me from the other person, which is not helpful if I want to partner with them to deal with a roadblock or pothole that's on the way to our ultimate goal. So, practice, take baby steps, practice using I statements in small ways, and to distinguish between when it's useful for you to use I statements, you statements, and we statements. Practice, 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 and accelerate your leadership.